There is one character in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise that has become a victim to a backstory that I believe parallels the story of the Winter Soldier. But what would a human soldier have in common with a cartoon electric-powered Tenrec? Basically nothing, except the backstory of Bucky Barnes and Serge Tenrec. And here's the origin story of the Winter Soldier, in case you've been living under a rock. Bucky Barnes was once a friend to Captain America, a soldier who was living a perfectly normal life fighting for his country. However, in a mission to stop Hydra's train, he was presumably eliminated after falling off a cliff, off a mountain, into the abyss. But he later resurfaced 70 years later as a brainwashed super-strength soldier, commanded to destroy his best friend and other innocent people. But Serge Tenrec, she the character who was randomly introduced late into the IDW Comics Series, and a certain doctor happened to have brainwashed her similarly to Hydra's Dr. Zola and how he assisted in the Marvel Universe. And that doctor, of all creatures, was a platypus called Dr. Starline. Besides, our Metal Sonic was commanded into stealing his prized possession, which was a gem called the Warp Topaz, which Starline had spent years researching. He was fuming because he was chucked into a portal like a literal trash bag. The Warp Topaz was then given to Eggman since he believed that it was the key to solving the pandemic. And it was. But Starline, he had a total psychopathic breakdown after this betrayal. He then got to work on dominating the world his way, and after an idea by every Sonic fan's favourite villain, Tharok, planted that idea, he was convinced into believing that he was better than Eggman and that he could surpass him. Enter Serge. If you know the Sonic franchise, you'll know of the usual Eggman vs Sonic dynamic. But while Eggman repeatedly tried to take over the world one by one and kept trying to use Metal Sonic as a counter-attack against the regular Sonic, Starline realized that in order to break the Sonic cycle and to make his domination easier, he wouldn't create another robot Sonic, but rather replace him with another person. Take note, Sonic Prime. He states that the heroes shape the society, and then he realized that Sonic is not just about power, but something Eggman always overlooked: personality. A new hero to replace Sonic would be much easier, a new living person. Flash forward and he's stolen one of Eggman's bases called Eggbase Sigma and began development on the heroes. Meanwhile though, in the Marvel Universe, Hydra located Bucky's body in the snow with one less arm. After the idea that they needed a super soldier of their own to be the new super soldier Captain America, they needed people to experiment on, lab rats, expendable people. But they also knew that said people could have the power to overthrow their rulers because they have their beliefs and the ideas they have right. Come 70 years later and the development of a completely non-personality super soldier to beat Captain America had begun, since he had just made his return into the peak MCU. Both of these characters were made as counterattacks, more so tools like a hammer, as a weapon to be used against the hero. But now I'm going to go into the main reason why I believe these characters are counterparts and what makes them into the person that they are now. And that is again, personality. We all have one imp, defines who we are, who you are, who a character is. Are they scared, smart, sassy? But these characters, while they are counterparts, their endings and this video's endings show how they begin to differ. Serge was encouraged to have real but counterfeited personality, whereas Bucky's personality was completely erased into nothing. One had a fake man-written personality, the other mind-controlled into following orders. In Sonic's universe, Starline realized that he couldn't just pick a random person and expect them to have the strength, the speed and determination that Sonic possessed. So he not only deleted and wiped Serge's original personality like a hard drive, but also changed her physically, again similar to how Bucky became a super soldier. And with the use of digital coding from an AI sentient robot, Starline was able to design a personality that could be given to her after he wiped her memory and started hypnotizing her into the belief that Starline's mission and her hatred for Sonic was what she wanted. Bucky was tortured and had all his memories of his friendships, family and his life suppressed from his head, and then later mind controlled similarly to Serge into obeying orders that were given to him and believing in a false mission. No personality, just given the order and he carried it out no matter what it was. If he showed signs of a personality forming, he was yet again memory wiped and then tortured further. Bucky gained super strength from the experiments that Hydra had done to him and further combat training. Surge had what were named enhancements done to her also, a cyborg skeleton implanted into her body, with the addition of a toughness from the previously mentioned metal virus, with the speed of Sonic and the electrical powers of a power-up. And if you power up the subscribe button by hitting it, then that will reveal more Sonic and Marvel videos to watch. By returning to Earth, Surge gained practically invincibility powers, alongside Sonic's powers, to make her an unreplaceable replacement for Sonic. But there was one more character that I didn't mention earlier. Surge's ally and the replacement for Tails, who was named Kit, short for Kit Tsunami, who was also hypnotized into the idea that Surge was basically his sister. Plus he was water powered, which I'm sure will make a great combo with electricity. This duo and Bucky gained new strengths to beat the main hero. Both characters were trained further in combat. Bucky was made to be the ultimate soldier, unbeatable with the strength and will of Captain America. Surge was put through several tests over and over to see whether she could handle the enemies of the outside world, and Kit was used to be a water-powered support unit, and that his life's mission was to protect Surge. Both had memories of families, friends wiped from the head, both were trained in combat to beat the hero, and both gained powers. And just like Bucky, they were both made into weapons. Though what happens next to both characters, while similar in some ways, they now begin to differ. After a fight with Captain America, who constantly reminds the soldier of his former identity, and after a near-death experience on both sides, the soldier saves the captain's life and flees into hiding. He went to a museum and learnt of the truth of Bucky Barnes and his sacrifice. Surge realizes how she knows a lot of what, but not a lot of why and how. And while Starline heard her say this, he just knocked her out again, saying reboot, still reminding us that these people were viewed as more of a device to be used than an actual person. However, after a near-death experience in battle, Surge just gets the same thought about how the heck she ain't dead after being crushed by a hammer and some rubble. So she ordered Kit to hack into Starline's computer and discover exactly what I've told in this video, her personality man-made, and how her personality was shaped by the Doctor's preferences. Starline discovers her next to the computer, and after a very anticlimactic fight, Starline receives his own medicine by being hypnotically knocked out, and Surge gains the idea to destroy everyone since that's literally all she knew. She'd beg Starline about having zero context and how everything she knew was a lie, paralleling Bucky's story of being used as a tool and having all context erased, and how he attempted to rediscover who he was after having flashbacks to his past, but Surge, following Starline's programming in a way, decides to go out and destroy Sonic and everyone else on the planet. Bucky eventually just gets rescued by Captain America and eventually reclaims his memory to later joining him in many battles that included an alien. Both of these characters were changed, tortured, hypnotized, their context was erased. One became a hero by reclaiming his memories and helping a friend, the other two, villains. And I wonder if Surge will ever get a return in her memories fully, since both Kit and Surge literally became victims almost to themselves. Both were victims and both were tools, and both were given a second chance, but only Bucky took it. But if you enjoyed this video, then click the video on the left for more Sonic content, or on the right for more Marvel content, and I hope to see you all there.